Little shop of horrors. I'm Steph.
And I'm Ange.
We're Nerdazons.
Yeah, we aced that.
Yeah,
I'm going to give myself a little high five there.
Yeah.
We're not singers, full disclosure.
In case you didn't hear that yourself.
Yes. So this month is my choice. I chose Little Shop of Horrors, the 1960 version to the 1986. I chose these movies because watching this movie has always been on my bucket list. I always knew about it, always knew the references, but I had never watched it. And I'm really, since the quarantine, I've been really trying to tick off a lot of those things, which you'd be proud of me. I finally watched The Breakfast Club.
You did?
Yeah.
You'd never seen it before? What did you think?
Well, I'd seen scenes of it, and I'd seen so many references, I feel like I knew it anyway. But then I actually watched it, and I'm like, oh, I had pretty much seen the majority of it.
But what did you think?
It was really good, but it definitely doesn't hold in today's time, I don't think. And I feel like that is something you need to watch when you're younger. I feel you'll be more relatable to it when you're younger and going through sort of similar problems and things like that. But when you're older and you've kind of sort of worked things out or sort of worked out how to manage it yourself, it's not as relatable.
But did you like it? That's the main question.
I loved it.
Have you watched 16 Candles?
Not yet, but I know all the references and everything to that as well.
There is one of the most beautiful scenes in that movie.
The end over the cake?
No.
Oh.
There's another scene, I'm not going to spoil it, but oh my God, it's so beautiful. I'm so proud of you.
I know. So we're slowly going through them all.
What else is on your list?
So I watched it as a kid. I don't remember much of it, but Ferris Bueller's Day Out.
Day Off.
Day Off, sorry. Again, I saw it as a kid. I don't really remember much of it, but I do. Again, I know all the 80s references, but I don't know the movie. So back to the podcast.
Do you know what I did watch? Sorry. I've heard about it, been told it's a beautiful movie. It's A Wonderful Life. It's from like the 40s. It's a Christmas story. It's beautiful. You need to just watch it.
Okay.
It's on Stan.
I'll add it to my list. We are recording on the same day. You may hear this pop up again in next month's podcast because we're recording all out of whack today. But I will be watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original with Donald Sutherland in it as well. So that's on my to-watch list. So I'll let you know how all these classic movies are going. I love classic movies. But I chose it because I have always wanted to watch it. And I figured when's a better time to watch it when we're going to review it. And I feel like this has given us a really good mix of, we've got black and white classic films, it's a cult comic horror film, and it's reinvented as a musical. So I feel we have a really good, a variety of genres and things to look at compared to what we usually do.
Yeah.
And that's what
Which is you horror, me artsy-fartsy.
Yeah, and I really want to try and bring a whole range of genres because I feel like any movie lover should know all of them. And that's what I really try to do with my selections this year.
Was one of the first proper musicals I ever went to see, was Little Shop of Horrors.
I wish I saw this as a musical.
Yeah.
I love musicals.
It was amazing. It was at, I think it was the Capitol Theatre. Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll
get into that. So we're going to start with the original, 1960, and I will read you the synopsis, as you usually do this part, but my choice, I'll do it.
Fine.
It feels weird when we change it over to me. Even though we do the same amount in a year, it feels like you do it all the time, and it's, now it's weird that I have to do it. All right. Seymour is a young man who works in a flower store. He manages to create a carnivorous plant that feeds on human flesh. Nobody knows about it. So Seymour and the plant become good friends, quotation mark. The plant needs food to grow up, so it convinces him to start killing people. So I actually watched this for free on YouTube. I'm really finding a lot of things on YouTube lately.
I watched this one on Tubi.
Yeah, you were telling me. So there's a lot of places you can watch this. You have to be careful on YouTube. I started on one that I had found a while ago. The quality wasn't that great, but then when I moved to a different free one on YouTube, the quality was so much better and it wasn't as dark and I was able to really watch the film.
Yeah. I'd never seen the original. I didn't even know that the original existed.
I know, when I told you this was my choice, you're like, oh my God, I didn't know it was a thing.
Yep.
Yeah. I love classic films. I really do. It's just so different. And to me, what I love about them, I feel like they rely heavily on script, obviously score or orchestra, depending on the genre of movie you're doing. And they rely on their actions that all the actors do, as opposed to, you know, CGI and things like that. And I find in a lot more modern films, the scripts aren't as heavy as what they are. It's a really classic comic. And the best way I could describe this to people who haven't seen it is, think of the Three Stooges. And a lot of the over-the-top acting that they did was in this. And I feel it really, really worked because they just had they only had like 2 sets really to work with. And all the actions were just so hilarious and over the top. I found it so funny.
Oh, yeah, when he's putting the pots away and he tumbles over.
Yeah.
And do you know what I loved as well? When, like, the guy would get hit by the rock.
Yeah,
and
it just like,
oh, no. You could almost see, like stars or, like, birds around his head.
Yeah, that type of acting is definitely a thing of the past, but I just love it. It's so good. And I know not many people appreciate that, but I do. So I definitely enjoyed watching it. The intro of the film, I really wanted to talk about the intro.
Yes.
So the intro of the film really set the mood for this one. And it was a very different mood to what you got of the next one, which we'll talk about later. But the intro, it panned across a dirty, wet, gloomy town. And it had a very classic noir, almost Dick Tracy 1945 cartoon feel to it. And even with that, the actor narrating over the top, he had that really sort of deep,
news,
dirty town sort of thing. And it really set the film that, it isn't like going to be an investigation or something, like a real typical Private Eye sort of story. And it definitely set a good vibe for the film.
Yeah, honestly, I loved this so much. I'm so glad that I actually watched this one.
Yeah, like there's so many great classic films out there, but I feel a lot of people, and maybe not so much with us, even though we're young, but I feel the younger generation, they'll look at those films and it's like, I'm not even going to look at it. Unless you're a hardcore movie fan, you won't look at where movies began and stories began. Like this is when people actually created their stories for the first time, as opposed to us redoing them.
What a crazy idea.
Yeah.
To think, I'm going to make a movie about a carnivorous plant.
Yeah. Carnivorous plants are amazing. I work with some of them and we write education programs based around them, and they're just so fascinating. But yeah, it's such a good story. Okay, so I really broke my notes down based around the characters in this one. So Seymour, he was a character I really felt sorry for.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, like you really felt for him. He got bullied around by Mushnik and his mum.
Oh, the mum was absolutely hilarious.
So funny. I had a point on her. She was so funny.
Okay.
Immediately you felt for this character because he was just such a kind-hearted person who's just trying to do the best that he can, and he just has such a love for plants and he really wants to make it, even though he may not be the best at it. Like when he was cutting to try and make them even.
That's what I was going to say, is that when he's done it and he's like, why not put them together, you idiot?
I know. That's what I mean about classic. They're such simple actions that they're doing, but it's so over the top funny.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like today it wouldn't have worked to do actions like that. It's a whole different genre of comedy, and it's so funny. Even when Mushnik, when the burglar comes in and he holds the pot plant up over his face,
and he's in a glass cage.
Yeah, like what's that gonna do, you idiot? It's so good. I think every actor had their own style of comedy, and they were all over the top, but it didn't seem like
hokey.
Yeah, it didn't seem like everyone was fighting for the main screen. Like it worked. It really did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Seymour, immediately you really do feel for him. His mum, yes, what a hoot. She is so hilarious.
Such a hypochondriac.
I know.
An alcoholic.
I laughed so hard when she was at the dinner table or something, when she's like, she wants the iron lung, and she's like, breathing ain't easy, you know, and I'm like, that is so bad. That is such a horrible thing to say, especially in the 60s, you know, or when polio was still such a thing there. It's so bad, but it was so funny.
I know.
But
Breathing
I
ain't
did
easy.
make a note, if you really do break her down,
Yeah.
she's actually a very nasty mental abuser to her son.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so unfair that she did that to him. Like, he brought a really nice girl home. She really loved Seymour for who he was. And she just, you can't go. You can't have her. You know what she's like.
You need a sick girl to look after.
Yeah, what is with her and having an illness? It didn't make sense to
Hypochondriac.
me. I know. She's top level hypochondriac. And when he's like, the doctor said there's nothing wrong with you. Oh, well, he's wrong. I always trusted him, but he's wrong.
I need a third opinion.
I know. She was such a character.
And when Seymour brought her the tonic, and she's like just gulping it down.
Yeah, and it's like something like 90% alcohol. I know.
I'm surprised there wasn't cocaine in it.
Yeah, she was so good. So Mushnik, for a 1960 business owner, so we got to think this was filmed like probably 1959ish. So I did still get a very strong 50s feel to this as opposed to the 60s. But for Mushnik, he really did come across as that business owner looking for a good quick sale, not doing much work sort of thing.
Oh, come on. I'll take you out for dinner, my son. My son.
Yeah. No, you need to stay here.
Who said I could call you my son?
Yeah, I love how quickly he changes his dramatic speeches, and he's so over the top with his speeches. He's kind of melodramatic like the mum, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And he was a character. Feel free to step in if at any point you want me to stop, but I'm just going through my list.
Yeah, that's okay.
So the dentist as well was another one I put. He had a very strong stooge vibe to him, and he was like so over the top with the way he was going in with the tools.
Oh my God, that was so scary.
He was a scary dentist, but he was funny at the same time. It's like, oh, you're the one that messed up my plants that you were trying to make even. Yeah. They were his plants. But let's talk about the creep who loves pain. This is something I want to draw about classic films. Mm-hmm. All he had to do was a nice man was sitting there in a suit, and all he had to do was talk. That's all he did, and he came across as a massive creep because he obviously talked more about what he was thinking. And like, that's what I love, how simple that was. Mm-hmm. And you didn't need to go over the top, that he was just a guy who was there for the pain because he was a sadist. But it's just something so simple like that is accomplished in a classic film. But fun fact,
yes,
did you know that was Jack Nicholson?
What?
I know, right?
No, wait, what?
Yeah, the sadist was Jack Nicholson.
Shut the front door.
I know, I thought the same. When I was going through my notes and I'm reading the actors and stuff, and I'm like, Jack Nicholson, he wasn't in this. Who's this character? So I quickly searched his character, and I'm like, holy cow, you look so much taller, and your head face looks different to what you
Jack
look like
Nicholson,
now.
Wilberforce. Whoa!
I know, mind blown.
Also, Mrs. Shiver, she's the one that everybody died next day.
I know, and she would just come in every day. But you know what I found really, really funny is she knew all of them, and they were all linked to the guy at the railway. Was the cop that she went in at the beginning.
Yep.
And then the cop who was brought in, who was narrating, who lost his son or something, and she's like, oh, it's a shame about your son. And I loved how she was connected to all of those pieces, because I wondered why she kept coming in, and I'm like, what is the point of this character? And then bang, it hit it at the end. She was funny. But I felt bad for her, and she always kept trying to get a bargain.
I know, and he's like, nah, sorry.
Not happening.
Not happening. But also the cops, that was the funniest part for me, when the cops are like, got any leads? No leads. Do you want to continue? Yes, let's follow. And they had nothing, and they're like, let's just do it.
Yeah, there was a whole next level of comedy in this. Yeah, kind of like Monty Python, but not as outdated as they all were.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way I can put that.
See, I'm not a huge fan of slapstick, but this was actually done perfectly.
Yeah, and I think because it wasn't just a solid comedy film, like you had an underlying storyline to it, which helped alleviate some of the comedy. Also, I loved the scene when he killed the cop, which you find out later at the railway, and he has a bag, and at first I'm wondering what is in the bag, because he just slung it over his shoulder like it was nothing. No dragging it or anything. And that guy was massive compared to Seymour. And then he's just like walking around running and then trying to dump it in a bin. It's like not possible. But yeah, just little things like that are so funny.
And then when he's got all 10 fingers are all like bandaged up, oh, it's because of bees.
Yeah, and I know, it's so over the top. The schoolgirls, though, were weird. I don't even think schoolgirls in the 50s would just go and kiss a random person like they did him. So quickly, too, when they only just met him.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's a bit weird. Yeah, I liked it, and I liked that the plant, sure, it was the 60s. They couldn't go into as much animation as they did in the later one.
It was still amazing. Audrey was so cool.
Yeah, and the voice, even though all you really heard from this plant was feed me, it was said in such a way that it was like, feed me. And I found it so funny. And it was only 2 words.
I know, but they did an amazing job to do that. Like, they would have had to make it out of, like, paper mache or something.
They probably had. My theory is because it's always in a plant on the
somebody's
table.
hand.
Someone's hands, probably.
Yeah.
It's like a puppet, but it's so funny. Feed me.
When he's like, he's sad and he's like, feed me.
Even when he manages to like kind of hypnotize him a little bit to go and find food, and the girl who's trying to get his attention,
the prostitute,
that vain? She is a good-looking prostitute compared to how the style has changed in like 40 to 50 years to now. She is elegant.
But it's like, my place or yours? Mine?
Oh, I've never had someone want to, like, volunteer before. He's so docile. I really did feel for him. And the ending was odd.
I wasn't expecting that ending.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the faces to come out.
And him to kill himself.
Yeah, I was expecting him to go, because he took the knife into the plant, and I'm like, yeah, he's going to kill it from the inside. That's what I'd do. I'd, like, stab it on my way out or something.
Yeah.
It would be awesome, like an action film. But then his face became part of it. And yeah, I just wasn't expecting that. I think Audrey in this was she was a good supporting character for him.
Yes.
And she did have a higher voice, but it was a soothing, like almost calming voice.
Yes, unlike the next one.
Yeah, yes, I've got notes on that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she was a really good supporting role, I think, for Seymour in this one. And I think he needed that to show, hey, you are good at something. You can achieve something.
Yeah, and she was always there for him.
Yeah, she was always his number one supporter. Even when she kissed him and he's like, oh, I didn't think people like to kiss me. And she's like, I like to kiss you.
I know, but then they got engaged so quickly.
I know, but I think there must have always been something there.
Yeah.
But it was so weird that they were doing it around Mushnik.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was great.
He was good. And one other thing that I really liked in the script for this one is he knows what he saw. Mm-hmm. I'm going to like do another sidetrack here. So he knows he saw him feed the body to the plant. But there's no way that Seymour can dismember a body, put it in a bag at the train tracks. It's just not possible. He didn't have any of the tools.
No.
But yeah, Mushnik, I love that he never outrightly tells him that he knows what he saw, and it was just all around the feeding cycle of a Venus flytrap plant, which is usually like insects. And I love that he just kept the conversation to that.
Yeah.
But I have a question. How did he not get arrested at the end?
Mushnik?
Yeah, like, so when they went in to go and get Seymour, Mushnik is like, no, he didn't mean any of it. So it's like, you obviously are an accessory
To murder.
Yeah. So why did he not get arrested? And then I love that he gets so tired chasing Seymour, he just sits down later, and then Seymour and the cops all run past him, and then his head pops out of the toilet seat.
It was definitely a well-made movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So did I.
So I think with this one as well is back to saying that they only had minimal sets and they really utilized the entire space. So you had the shop, so they were in there, they really used that whole scene. It almost looked like a theater show where you used just the stage area. So the camera was kind of fixated in its one spot. You got to see all the elements of the shop, and then you just saw the back part. It almost looked like just a backdrop on a stage where he goes into the back door, and then you just had the backdrop of the train station, his house, and the junkyard that he gets into. But they're only small sets.
Yeah.
Only the shop seems, well, actually they all seem quite minimal except for his house, but I feel they use the entire space really well.
Absolutely. I was just looking, did you know that Roger Corman, the director of this, also did Silence of the Lambs and the remake of Little Shop of Horrors as well?
No way.
Yeah.
That's insane. insane.
I know.
That's really cool. I'm really happy about that because, well, actually, I have a lot on the next one. So
I have a lot on the next one.
How many movie reels do you give this?
4.5.
I agree. I was telling you before we recorded, this one was actually really difficult for me to break both of them down because
To me,
they're so different,
so
but they're
different.
the same.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why I found it hard to say, which one's better, but I have to feel like both of them are quite equal to me.
I don't have too much to say about this one because I've got a lot to say about the other one.
Yes.
But this one, I'm still shook that
it was Jack Nicholson?
Jack Nicholson in that movie.
I know. When I was reading my notes yesterday, I'm like, nah, that can't be him. And I went back and rewatched it, and it's like, yeah, I can see a bit of the smile, but your whole face shape and your ears and everything is so different. I think it's because he was dressed so nicely.
Yeah, but I'm gobsmacked. Didn't know that that's Jack Nicholson.
I know, right?
Wow. But yeah, I have a lot to say about the next one.
What do you think this one got on Rotten Tomatoes?
Okay, I'm going to guess 84%.
Higher.
96%.
Lower.
92%.
Yes.
Yes, got it. Woo!
Third guess.
Yes. 92%.
Yeah, this one got 92%.
That's pretty good.
It's funny because the audience score, I didn't write it down, but the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes was actually less than what Rotten Tomatoes gave it. But I feel like this movie, it dated well.
Yes, it still holds up
Yeah,
today.
it does. It didn't have any offensive topics.
No.
Anything like that. It can easily be watched now, today. And
like, look at us. We watched it for the first time and we thought it was great.
Yep.
We laughed. We, I felt such empathy for Seymour.
Yeah.
I was like, and I felt such love for Audrey. And then, and then Audrey too was just...
Audrey Jr.
Sorry, Audrey Jr. was just hilarious.
Yeah.
It, like you said, even though they feed me. And then even like Mushnik was absolutely just pure gold.
Yes. And one thing I do have to point to I don't know if you'd call it the prop. I'm just going to go with the prop. When he first fed Audrey Jr. and he was she was in the little
coffee can.
Yeah, coffee can or like vegetable can or something. And then it bent all out of shape because she was growing. And I'm like, that was done really well. And it was so simple to show the effect that she's growing.
And actually she is a girl, even though the voice is a man.
Yeah.
Audrey's actually female.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, since we have so much to talk about on the next one, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so Little Shop of Horrors, 1986. A nerdy florist finds his chance for success and romance with the help of a giant man-eating plant who demands to be fed.
Oh my goodness, how good was this?
The soundtrack, oh my god, as soon as I started watching this, I was bopping around like Little Shop of Horrors. I'm still bopping now to this, and this song has been stuck in my head since I've watched this film.
Weren't you saying that you've been getting this and Hamilton mixed up?
Okay, so again, this is recording is all out of whack, so it's not going to make sense to the listeners, but I did watch Hamilton last night. And I didn't have a very good sleep last night because I kept waking up to two songs stuck in my head. And it was a mash of Little Shop of Horrors, and then Alexander Hamilton. I'm like, and I had to tell myself, stop, go to sleep. It was so weird.
Rick Moranis as Seymour he is so good.
He was a perfect choice.
I love Rick Moranis so much.
As soon as I saw the original, because I knew he was cast in this, in the remake, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, yes, he fits.
Do you know who I would have thought would have been a great Mushnik, other than the Mushnik that was in this movie, another recast? John Candy. No, not John Candy, John...
Goodman?
John Goodman.
Yeah, he could have done it.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
Because John Candy was in it. He was the radio
I
presenter.
love John Candy.
Rest in peace, John Candy.
Yeah.
We would have had a Spaceballs too, but sadly, with your passing, it didn't happen.
How good would that have been? But he was so good. One thing I have to say is that Ellen Green as Audrey, her voice got a little bit annoying.
Yeah. My notes on her.
Because she's the mum out of...
I really loved her in Pushing Daisies. She was the aunt, one of the aunt that was... You know how they were stuck in the...
I've never seen Pushing Daisies.
Such a good series that got cut so quickly. My notes on her. I very much disliked how much they changed her character. So she
Same.
was the one thing that I disliked about this film. So they immediately made her this weak woman who is in a horrible domestic violence situation. There's no need for any of that. She
No, there
was such a
wasn't.
beautiful character in the original. She
And
was
so beautiful and innocent.
Yes, the innocence in the original. She looked gorgeous in her, it was kind of like borderline 50s dress. It wasn't quite the 60s.
No.
But they really, pardon my word choice, but they really skanked her up in this one. And I just thought they really took that character and shoved it in a blender.
Yeah.
They ruined the whole point of her. And they really developed her story more than they did Seymour's.
See, I completely, like, again, I hadn't seen the 1986 one for a very long time, and I hadn't seen the original, but I was like, I wish the mum was in the remake.
Yes.
And they didn't just make him an orphan.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't living in the shop, and Mushnik was a bit more, like, abusive
Yeah.
than the...
Well, I mean, he was abusive to him as well, but
Yeah.
he didn't come across as, I don't know, elegant or... I wouldn't say the word is elegant. What is the word I'm looking for? Over the top, dramatic.
Yeah.
Sort of in his actions and the way he spoke. But yeah, Mushnik was a little bit of a hit and miss. But Aubrey was the biggest downfall to this film. Like, it was so unnecessary to add the violence towards her. She was such a beautiful character in the original. I could have completely done without her song. Her song and Suddenly Seymour are the two songs I disliked off that soundtrack.
No, I love Suddenly Seymour.
And the way she ran to the pillar and just rested against it to cry.
Yeah. And then at the end when she's like, I'm going to die soon. And then she started
And
singing
she's like, no, I want you to feed me to her. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't, by that point, I really didn't like her as a character.
I was like, yeah, it's okay. I don't feel bad if you're going to die.
No. And I think because they changed, so the characters to me were the biggest change in this. And I feel it altered the story in a really good way, but it also altered it in a bad way. I didn't have the sympathy for Seymour in this one because you didn't see the lifestyle that he lived. You didn't see the abusive parent and the abusive shop owner. You just see the abusive shop owner.
Yeah.
So there was no sympathy for him. She was just annoying. I do find it funny. Okay, Steve Martin was a horrible character.
Oh, I love Steve Martin. He
He's
could do no
funny,
wrong.
but the character...
Oh, was a sleazebag,
he was
dirtbag.
terrible. And the way he was yelling at her, oh my God.
But like,
Could you imagine acting that out?
I know, but I was like, whoa, you're a bit of a babe.
Oh, no.
Really? Yeah, no, with his slick back hair, I was like,
No, he kept sticking his, like, nose and that up like Elvis, and I'm like, oh, God. Just,
No, I
just
was
keep
like-
your face normal, but...
and then Bill Murray
Oh,
as the dentist, as the patient.
Sadist, yeah.
Oh my God.
So I really found it funny that you added an element to the dentist in this one of the fact, like, you developed his character more. So they really developed a lot more characters.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have developed Aubrey's. That was a miss. But with his, I thought it was really kind of a side note, funny, not relatable to the story, but it's like, oh, a dentist, like, because you like inflicting pain, so you might as well make a career out
And
of it.
then it's this song of his mum going, well, you know, you've got to do something if you're not good at maths, blah, blah, blah. Do dentistry.
Yeah, it's like, I know I like hurting people, so why don't I do this? And I'm like, that's kind of actually a funny way to do it.
And then this song.
And then he got pissed off because he couldn't make Bill Murray, like, in pain because he was enjoying it 'cause he was a sadist.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really funny
And then
twist.
when he's putting Seymour, he's trying to look at Seymour, and then he's like, the
puts
gas,
that mask
but it's
on.
for me. That was creepy.
Yeah, he definitely did creepy very well.
Yeah.
And I was so glad when he died because his character totally deserved it.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like he tried to copy Meatloaf in the Rocky Horror Show a little bit. Just a much more horrible person. But yeah, I feel like I got that vibe from him when I watched it.
Audrey too. Oh my goodness.
So funny. I love the song.
Yep.
That Audrey 2 sung.
Yeah.
So much charisma.
I know.
And sass. I loved it.
When he finds a quarter and he opens up the till, gets the quarter, puts it in, and he's like, aha. To Audrey, and she's like, oh, is this you, Seymour?
Yeah.
No, it's me. Ha 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 ha.
And then, yeah, why would you go and check I would not even go in
Did she
there.
live next door, across the road?
Yeah, they showed you that at the beginning, and she came late. Like that was one funny thing. Is like
She's
they
always
showed
late.
that you. Well, she was late because of obviously someone beating her up, but it's just funny that she's across the road and comes in late to work. Okay, now the opening song. I love it. I've been singing it so much. It was so good. I got a very when that one and the next song is called Skid Row, and when they were doing all the choreography, beautiful setup. I actually got a bit of a West Side Story vibe, with all the fences and stuff when they jumped onto the fences and the wet sort of pavements and street. It was a bit of, obviously not as dark as West Side Story, but I got that vibe from watching.
And those
the set.
3 girls were amazing.
They were stunning. I actually wrote a note when Skid Row walks and you've got the older woman who comes down the alley. I got goosebumps when she started singing. She had such a beautiful voice, and she only was in it for like 2 seconds, and then the rest of the song was sung by everyone else.
The music in this was incredible.
Yes, but there was some songs I definitely could have done without.
Yeah.
I'm not into the slow songs.
Not into lovey-dovey songs.
No. So, and Aubrey to me was a big disappointment. So I really could have done without her song. They developed her character so much more, and I think they wanted you to have sympathy for her.
Yeah.
As opposed to Seymour. But I had sympathy for neither.
And the ending was completely different.
Was one of my favorite things ever. Like, I was laughing so hard, but it's just so nice to see the bad guy win.
Yeah.
Like, the aliens won. We die. They took over the planet.
But I also like even Audrey, how she became is completely different. So one was at the beginning, it was Seymour putting two plants together.
Yeah, he
created. And then he created Audrey Jr. Whereas Audrey 2 came from the eclipse and it was an alien.
An alien, yeah.
And I loved that idea that it was an alien.
I like both ideas.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean. Something's changed between the two, but it worked. The dentist, he was so much more, like, complicated in the second one. It wasn't necessary. You didn't need to go into his story that much.
No.
But it worked.
And he was so much more awful as Steve Martin.
Oh, he was such a nasty character. Awful. When she fell off the bike and he's so angry at her and, I just couldn't. But one thing I have to say about Mushnik is I feel like his character seemed transferable to the new era. So it's about 25, nearly 30 years later.
Yeah.
And I feel for his character, he seemed like a businessman in the 80s as opposed to a businessman in 1960. So I think that worked as a transferable one. But here's something. I don't know if you noticed this, but I noticed this. Did you notice that the victims in the first one were randomized and they weren't linked or connected to Seymour, whereas in this one, all the victims were related to him in some way. So it was Mushnik, it was the dentist, and it was Aubrey.
I know, that made me sad that Mushnik got eaten.
Yeah, so easily too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like that they made the victims, it was personalised compared to the classic. So that's a big difference there. So I don't know if you noticed, like I did, but there was a lot of symbolism in this one on just wardrobe.
No.
No? Okay, so what I noticed was the 3 singers, in each scene that they sung in, the dresses matched, the colour of the dresses matched the scene.
Yeah.
So the white dresses of purity and love in Suddenly Seymour, so that's when he professes his love to her, and so they're all in white. They wore red dresses when they were singing Seymour is having fun, and he is just sitting there with his finger in Aubrey 2, and it's like sucking it like a bottle.
Yeah.
So red
cute.
for red dresses for blood.
Yeah, that was so cute, that scene.
Yeah, the Aubrey 2 is so cute, so animated. They wore deep purple during the gun scene, but that's because you see the purple. So with Mushnik, when he had the gun and he was trying to say, you got to go, like leave now, and they were in like a deep purple sort of sparkly dress in the shadows, but it's kind of like as they came out of the shadows and you saw more of the dress, the plant came in the back at the same time, and you could see, because he had the purple mouth, and you see the purple coming out of the shadow, and they just replicated that completely.
Oh yeah, because I got the whole wearing white because of purity and things like that, but I didn't get the purple.
Oh yeah, I noticed that as they were coming out of the shadows, and it showed the plant, like Aubrey too, coming out of the shadows, but you saw the mouth, and it was a purple blue, and then it goes into the green foliage. But they wore secretary outfits when it was during the contract signing, so it mimicked like an office signing.
Yeah.
And then one last symbolism, I don't know if you noticed, when the dentist, Steve Martin, died, and they sung their song of professing love for each other in Suddenly Seymour, if you notice Aubrey's outfits, she never wore a low-cut top after that. So her tops were high-cut. So it's like, I have a better man to dress myself better for.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I noticed it as soon, because you see her next. They're recording the TV show in the shop, and that's when you see her next, and she has a nice blouse, and it covers her whole top. So she's with a better person, she's dressing better for that person, whereas when she was with Steve Martin, she had to downgrade herself. Yeah. But yeah, like, so they really played a big symbolism on outfits in this one, and I really picked up on that as I was watching it, and I'm like, I hope Steph sees this and realizes, or I'm just crazy.
No, I got a few of them, but you know me, I just watch. I just get so into it that I just watch. I don't really think about anything else other than that.
As long as you can see what I can see, and absolutely. I'm not crazy. But yeah, I definitely saw the symbolism on that. Yeah, one other thing, and I found this so dumb, I kind of yelled I was on my own when I was watching this, and I'm like, what the hell? When he tried to sneak out, so when he planned to go and marry like Aubrey and sneak out, he chose to go through the front and not wake Aubrey 2 up. He dragged a body through the basement. Why did he not go through the basement?
I know. I thought that was so dumb.
I was like watching as he's sneaking, and I'm like, what are you doing? It's the dumbest thing.
Oh. No, but I freaking enjoyed this movie. It's, if you haven't, if you're listening to this, you would have watched the movies, but I think this is an ultimate classic. Good, if you're even new to musicals, this would be a good introduction to musicals.
Yeah, this was brilliantly reinvented as a musical, and I think both movies worked. One worked excellent as a musical, and one worked excellent as a cult comic horror.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you make me watch horror films.
I wouldn't even consider this a horror.
No, but it's no. But like for future episodes, and because even though this is it's not scary, it's not a horror film, it's a black comedy.
Yeah.
But still, I'm glad that you're making me watch, because I would not have known, like you said, I would not have known that this was a remake.
Yeah, I know. Like when I was just looking at things, sometimes I look at things that are on my to watch list and I want to watch them, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll check and see if it was remade just so I can add it to this, because it forces me to finally get through my list of things to watch. So yeah, I'm really glad.
Speaking of things, you said this is a massive callback, but did you and your partner end up watching Call Me by Your Name?
No.
Oh. Because that's on the list as well. Because that's newly on Netflix.
Yay.
One of my friends is like, did you know that Call Me By Your Name's on Netflix? And I went, did you know that there's water in the ocean? Like, of course.
Steph knows. Okay, so Steph, what do you rate this one?
I'm going to go 91%.
No, it's out of 5 movie reels.
Oh.
I'm saying, what do you rate it?
I rate this one a 4.5 as well.
Same. Like I said at the beginning, this was really difficult to pick between the two, because it's the same story, but they're two very different takes on it, and they're not terrible takes. Like, I feel like this is a really good difference, that they're both equally good in their own way.
Exactly.
And the only thing that I'd fault
is Audrey.
Is Aubrey, yeah. Yeah. She was not a very good addition to the new one, but the rest of it was brilliant.
Yeah, all the music was amazing. The songs are great. Everything about it.
Okay, what do you give this on Rotten Tomatoes?
91%.
You were so close. 90.
No way.
Yeah, 90%. So that shows you just how good, like we were saying, that it was really difficult to pick. It shows you just how good it is, because there's only a 2% difference between the 1960 version and the 86.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it wasn't just me who couldn't pick, because they both stand equally on their own.
Yeah, I think this is the most difficult one.
Yeah, to
that we've
rate.
had. To choose between which one was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that we got to do this. I'm glad we got to do different genres and a musical. It's been a very big musical weekend for me.
It has been.
It has.
It has been.
But shall we move on to
Nerdazon's Nerdy Notables?
We're getting so good at that.
I know we are. We're almost getting professional like.
I know. What is new with you?
Still doing D&D for you guys.
Yep.
One day you'll learn to talk to the people, not just go into battle, but that's okay. Doing that, not really anything much has been happening. Just working, I'm watching movies for this. I'm reading a lot. I'm up to the third one for the Money Book, a Stephanie Plum series, which is next month.
Yep.
I've actually been getting heaps into the Torchwood audio dramas.
Yep.
I've done like 6 of them and they're so freaking good. They're on Audible and
have a listen. Audible needs to sponsor us.
I know.
I feel like we talk about Audible every month.
I know. So there was one and it was actually a little story read by Gorman and it was called Hello and it was just about, there's obviously a rift in the space and people just come up and say hello and they just give way too much information, and what it is that, spoiler, there's a bunch of aliens that try to get information from people.
Oh, cool.
By them diverging information, and it was really good. I think Ben Gorman does a really good job of reading them, but also the audio dramas themselves. What else am I listening to? Oh, I'm listening to the Game of Thrones because I don't think I could actually read Game of Thrones.
Is a book I don't think I could ever get through.
But the author of the Game of Thrones is so amazing.
So George R. Martin's doing the...
No, he doesn't do the audio.
Book itself.
The book. So I'm doing...
I knew it was well written.
Yeah, but I'm listening to it because I could not read, although I'm an avid reader, it's very dense. Yes. So I'm listening to that. And I think the guy who read either the first one or the second one, I think he's now passed on. But he did an amazing job of them.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm not far into it, but I listened to, I really like the Game of Thrones books.
Cool. Maybe I should give listening to them a go. Let's see. So one thing I wanted to talk about is we got mail.
Woo woo!
So we got an email, which you guys can email us at any time at nerdazons@outlook.com. And we got a movie suggestion. It's our first one. And it was Cluedo the board game versus Clue the movie, which I really love that movie. So any excuse to watch that.
I don't think I've seen that movie.
It's got Tim Curry.
I know, I freaking love Tim Curry.
He's so good. He's like the best reason to watch it.
And then we were talking about other movies that are based on like video games and things. And you mentioned Mortal Kombat. Yep. And I'm like, oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah, so I think now is a good time to tell everyone. So next year we're actually going to try something a little different, unlike what we did this year. So this year we decided on every episode that we were going to do and we created a poster so everyone can go ahead, watch them, read them well ahead of time and you knew what we were doing. But next year, so we have been busy, mostly Steph, has been busy creating a list. I'm going to add a lot more things to that list. And so we've written a list of every form of remake or comparison that we can think of. And we're going to do randomization next year. So we're going to record every time we put our list into a randomizer. And that's going to pick what we're going to do.
And we're actually going to try to move on to fortnightly.
Yes, hopefully everything goes well and we can. But yes. Because I may be going back to uni.
Oh no. Well, we're doing obviously books to movies. We're doing movie remakes. We're doing games to movies, cartoons. Comics. We're also doing delayed sequels. So we've got Bill and Ted coming out next year. We've got Matrix coming out this year.
But we may or may not, depending on the randomizer. It's all on the randomizer.
I know, but I'm saying this is what...
the list is going to be massive.
Yes.
So...
and our clues on the list.
Yes, so we're going to add that. It's a listener's choice. We're going to try and highlight all listeners' choices. So if you ever want to send us in some options, let us know and we can put it in and highlight it. So that way when the randomizer comes up, we know if it's a listener's choice.
And we've even got like books on the randomizer, so... better get onto that Audible.
I know, yes. Definitely look out for cheaper subscriptions. Or even try YouTube like I do.
Well, next month, as mentioned, we're doing one for the money, the book versus the movie. The movie is on Stan and the book is...
I actually watched the movie on YouTube as well.
And the book and the audio book and the movie is on YouTube.
Both of them. So there are definitely free options out there for you to do this. You don't have to buy subscriptions and things. But yes, I'm really excited to try and get this list up. I think it'll be great that everyone can see the list and watch us work through it.
Oh, we're going to publish the lists, are we?
I'm going to try.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see how it is by the start of next year. I've got like 6 months, 5 months to prepare this and make sure everyone can see what we've done.
Absolutely. So if you like us, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts,
Or wherever you get your listen to your podcast.
And remember, email us with your movie suggestions or any feedback you have for us at nerdazons@outlook.com.
That's it for now. So we'll see you next month.
Bye.
Bye.